Some of the 102 families in Bloemfontein who were displaced due to heavy rainfall and floods have started returning to their homes. The families were accommodated at community halls around Mangaung. Most were from various informal settlements.
Roads washed away, houses and shacks flooded, and one life lost after a 10-year-old slipped and fell into a waterlogged ditch. More than 100 families were displaced, but some have returned to their homes to rebuild their lives. She says this was the worst experience in her life. She had to protect her children from the floods as they screamed for her help. This woman says she's tired of staying in the shack. She demands a house from the municipality. Authorities have started cleaning up in areas ravaged by floods. Potholes are also being repaired.
The mopping up has begun, but it's costly. But there's nothing that we can do. We are committed in making sure that the services are delivered to our community. It's a natural disaster. There's nothing that we can do. It's beyond our control.
The Mangaung Metro has urged parents to discourage children from playing near flooded dams, especially during torrential rains. Tabiso Khadebe, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
And to give us an update on the situation there, joining us from Bloemfontein is Mokete, Duma, Head of Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in the Free State. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers at home.
So, as we mentioned in the introduction, that some of the families have been able to return to their homes. How many are still being housed in makeshift accommodation, and how many have been able to return to their homes?
Look, this disaster has actually created a serious problem for various municipalities in the province, including Mangaung Metro. We are aware that some of the families are still housed in various halls. Yes, some have actually returned to their homes to try and rebuild their homes. But that is actually an act we are actually discouraging, because we need to do an assessment of the damage that has been caused, whether where those people are actually housed for now, is it a suitable area for them to be housed. Because last year, as the department, we issued an advisory circular to municipalities, where we said to them, look, we are in the era where we have actually past El Nino. Part of the global warming, we will now be faced with La Nina, and that's where we're going to see torrential rains affecting most of the municipal areas. And our advice was such that municipalities must begin to actually clean the water tunnels, make sure that their water drainage system is up to scratch, so that you don't have water flooding in the roads and other areas. And part of that plan was also saying, or suggesting to them, that they should actually discourage people from lying low areas from actually crossing the river streams, crossing where you have makeshift bridges, and try to avert as possible the areas that are highly flooded as one of the cautious measures to try and make sure that we save lives.
You mentioned that you've not yet done an assessment of the extent of the damage due to the floods. Tell us about the status quo. What conditions are you experiencing, and what are you anticipating? Look, like the advice I have referred to, one of the things that we said in that advice was that we're going to experience this heavy rain until mid-winter. And as a result, people must be actually cautious. Part of what we also encouraging people, as they occupy various parcels of land, they must avoid to occupy land that has never been tested by municipalities to check whether that land is suitable for accommodation. We know that there are these measures to try and accommodate people, but you cannot just simply accommodate people on the land that has never been tested to ascertain whether it's suitable for occupation. We are really encouraging the CWP workers, the EPWP workers in various municipalities to assist the municipalities to clean those water tunnels and a drainage system, because then you will have water flowing, freely without causing floods. One of the things that we have also encouraged our municipalities to do is to actually have the water harvesting method, so that they can channel water to one central point and then reuse that water in an event of drought. Like that some of the parts of the country, while we have these floods, are also experiencing serious drought problems.
These areas, most of these informal settlements that have been affected, are they in low-lying areas, or is it just the conditions under which the weather has affected Bloemfontein this time around?
That's correct. Some are on the low-lying areas, but some, because we know how most of these informal settlements were established, they were established on pockets of lands that were never, tested by municipalities to ascertain whether they are, conducive to house communities. And that is a problem that we're actually faced with, not only here in Mangaung, but in a number of areas. You go to Machabeng, you still have a similar problem. And more importantly, what we want to overemphasize is that knowing the area of Maluta Pofung to be a mountainous areas, that's where we are saying people must then avoid those lying areas. And then children, as they cross rivers, plans must be made to build proper bridge. We have had meetings with South African Defence Force where they are helping a number of municipalities to establish temporary bridges so that people can cross over those bridges whenever you have these high rains.
And clearly from the visuals, it was a lot of heavy rain on most of these parts, but there have been reports saying that graders have started clearing the roads. Is that the case, and what is involved? How long will it take?
Like I said, the plan was, or the plan is, gravel roads must be graded, because once you have graded the gravel roads, the loose stones will not be washed away easily when you are experiencing heavy rains. And part of that plan is to also say to municipalities, please, let's ensure consistent refuse removal, because if you don't remove refuse, the refuse that is actually lying on the street gets washed away by water and then end up blocking the drainage system. The other thing is that the pruning of trees is quite important, because these loose leaves also fall down and then block the drainage system. So I see a number of municipalities have actually started doing exactly that. Mangaung here, I've gone through various parts of Mangaung. I've seen people, trying to patch the potholes, also grading the gravel roads to ensure that those loose stones are not there. And in doing that, you are able then to ensure that your drainage system is not blocked.
Just a final question. You've mentioned that the forecast is of more rain. Do you have any idea of how many families you're going to have to house, given the fact that they can't go back to their homes if there is going to, or likely to be, more flooding?
Yes, our disaster management center is doing an assessment throughout the province, not only of the heavy rains, but also of the drought, so that we can develop necessary business plan in terms of mitigating the drought and both the floods. One of the things that we have encouraged municipalities to do is to alienate these invasive plants and trees, because they consume a lot of water in terms of mitigating on the drought. But equally so, you need to ensure that you don't eliminate all of them, because they drink almost 80 liters of water a day. So they will be able to mitigate and absorb a lot of water so that you don't have floods. But our disaster management is in contact with municipalities, assisting them. Once the analysis has been made, we will get the report, which will then give us what the next step should be in terms of advising the public on what measures to actually implement in mitigating the floods.
But do you know the numbers in terms of the families that you're dealing with? How many you may be forced to house temporarily?
Look, in Mangaung, we had more than 117 families that were housed. We have not received because it's only here in Mangaung where we have actually experienced heavy floods. But like I said, these rains will still be there, and part of what we have advised the municipalities was to say, look, put measures in place, make sure that you get blankets, you get even mattresses, so that if people in informal settlement are experiencing floods, you are then able to house them up until we have cleared the area, soil tests have been conducted to a certain weather, they can still be housed there. Others have got the prospects of being moved completely entirely from where they are to areas that may not experience floods, or to high-lying areas. But we only have the figures for Mangaung now, but our team is out in municipalities to check exactly which areas have been affected and how many families have been affected. We can confirm it's 117 here in Mangaung. We have not done an assessment as to how many are still left in those areas and who have gone back to their homes.
Thank you very much, Mokete Duma, head of the Free State Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. The process of retrieving 7